Man, this is the last one of these, man. Can you believe it?
I know. I
We're
know. I'm
already
I'm
through. We're
excited,
already
man.
through.
There's only so much we can kind of talk about when it's breaking down teams. It'll be much better when we can kind of see everybody in action and get a glimpse of how teams look.
I know it. And that's coming, man. I can't believe it's here already. It's been such a long off season. Hey, everybody, welcome in. SEC Front Porch, episode 8. This is going to be the last of the previews uh, for each team. We've been able to recover, kind of getting a late start in the summer, when it comes to getting this whole thing going. Um, it's been good to rebound, doing a couple of these weeks, getting to know some of these teams, and obviously, a lot of the fans of other teams will know a lot more about uh, about their teams than we will, but that's all a part of this process. Um, my co-host over there is Seth Meredith, Daddy Donnie, as you know him, is super knowledgeable about not just Tennessee, but a lot of different things. Super knowledgeable about not just football, basketball, baseball, like big baseball guy. And I know that there was plans for you to do a podcast baseball wise coming up this year. Is that still going on?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get it together. It won't be anything big. It'll just be mainly focused on Tennessee baseball, but we'll touch around the SEC as well. And we'll start getting it going more as the fall camp kind of rolls around. We'll probably do a little introduction to the new transfers, touch on the other SEC transfer portal classes, and kind of go from there. But it's just kind of a fun thing, and we'll see where it goes. But yeah, absolutely. We had planned on doing it last year, and Tennessee just didn't have the best year, so we were both kind of miserable watching them. So we figured it might not be the best year to start, but we're going to roll strong this year. We're going to start in the fall, so we have no choice but to power through in the spring. And I don't think the Vols offense will have much trouble keeping something to talk about this year. So yeah, it'll be called He Rakes, He Shoves. And we'll have it coming up, and I'm sure I'll be posting about it, so everybody will get a chance to kind of see it.
Yeah, that's a fantastic title. That's a that is a great title for a podcast. Yeah, so that's something that you got to be on the lookout for because it's going to be that's a lot of fun. You know a lot about Tennessee just in general, so um, that'll be a good thing. Not so much of a good thing was we didn't touch on it the other night, but obviously Dolly Parton passing away is something that you can't really avoid talking about when you're talking about famous figures, the state of Tennessee, what people have done for the state of Tennessee, like Dolly Parton. That was just kind of a tough thing. Um, what were your thoughts initially when you heard the news? We didn't know this how sick she was. We had heard something about her health, but not to the extent that she had cancer battled privately. But kind of what were your thoughts when you had seen the news that Tennessee's most famous figure, one of them at least, has passed away?
Yeah, I mean, it was heartbreaking to me. I mean, a bunch of my childhood memories growing up in East Tennessee always involved Dolly, whether it was going to Dollywood. My parents were huge Dolly Parton fans, what she did for the community. And it's rare that you find somebody that's just so kind to everybody. I mean, from everything that she did from Dolly's imagination library, where she sent books to any child that was registered from the age from 1 to 5 every month. She sent a different book to them, which is just amazing. It just seemed like she was just the kind of humanitarian where when most people get out of Tennessee and they come up from growing up like that, they just want to get as far away from it as it can. And it always seemed like Dolly was reaching back to pull East Tennessee with her. Whatever she did to get successful, she always wanted to bring that back to East Tennessee and just helping people in general. And you can kind of see from the variety of people that have reached out and posted something about her, or meeting her, the special memories they had with her, just how much she meant to just a variety of people and how many lives she touched. And, the biggest thing about Dolly was she was ours, right? She was East Tennessee. She was from where we're from. And just kind of what she represented was just so much of East Tennessee, where it's these people who don't have much, but will give you the shirt off their back, will do anything for you. And that's just kind of Dolly's whole personality was, no matter where she got, which was, I saw something, I don't know how true this is, but I saw that she had donated over $500 million over her lifetime, which would have put her in as a billionaire in her net worth, which is just insane. And so it just always seemed like she was trying to make everybody around her better. And that's just a thing that we could all have a little bit more of in our lives, is just trying to. It's hard to be empathetic all the time because you're constantly worried about yourself or your family, or and it's just hard to worry about other people. And so to have someone who just genuinely cared about other people, it's a big loss, and it's a very, very hard time for people in East Tennessee, for sure.
Yeah, and people that were on that list of that got books from her imagination library was us, was our kids. One of the many.
Hmm.
Um, just a selfless human being. Somebody who cared about everybody but herself. But still had the ability to know when things weren't good for her. Like she would definitely want to make sure everybody else was taken care of, but didn't want to hurt, what she had going on too. She protected her image and made it shine. And that's something that, we'll miss. I really hope that the team, I know that an RGW post went out about, a patch or something on the back of the helmet, and I hope they do that. Um, I hope they mention something at the first game against Furman, which we will be there. It'll be my daughter's first game at Neyland. She's been to a spring game, but never to an actual game. And I really hope that something is done. I know that they will. The great people of Tennessee and East Tennessee are are amazing like that. So I think it'll definitely happen. But I just kind of want to touch on a couple of those things. We're waiting for some folks to get in here. We've got Texas, we've got Vandy. We're wrapping up these previews. We have football this weekend. We have football now, if you like, different levels of football. But
Yeah, all the sickos watching the Furman versus D2 South Carolina team. I think it's Anderson or something's who they're playing. But all of my
yeah,
Tennessee sickos who might be in here trying to get a glimpse of what Jake Garcia looks like scouting out Furman. Hey, we applaud you, you sickos. That's the kind of fans that
yeah,
we love.
you have to scout your opponent. So I mean, that's always probably a good thing to do. So to the sickos, here, good job. We appreciate you guys. Um, Texas is first up in this episode, talking about the last couple of SEC teams. I think there's a couple games we could probably skip. One of them being the first game, Texas State on September 5th at 3:30. That's a DKR. And I think we can safely say that now Texas State is a Pac-12 team now, which is big for them. Just the rebirth, the reignition of the Pac-12, the new Pac-12, which is 9 teams. You can call it Pac-9 if you like. But Texas State is one. I don't know. I think it's maybe 9 for basketball, 8 for football. I don't know, but they needed at least 8. I don't know. I might have that backwards. But anyhow, Texas State is a Pac-12 member, and they will come to Austin. I'm comfortable in giving Texas the win, and I'm sure you are, but I'll check with you before I move on.
Yeah, I'm big on the Bobcats this year, moving over. Nothing screams Pacific 12 like having 9 teams and one of them's in Texas. But unfortunately, I just don't see the depth playing out. I think that they hold up pretty strong for the first 4 minutes of the game, and then Texas's depth just takes over, and give me Texas by 48 and a half.
Yeah, yeah. The first 4 minutes, were a real barn burner for the Bobcats. We'll take the horns in this one. Next matchup, obviously top five, huge. They did it last year. It didn't go down the way that Longhorn fans wanted it to go down. Um, but it'll be Ohio State coming into Austin. Been waiting for this one because we don't see a whole lot of Big Ten teams actually play SEC teams. So this is it's going to be something. And I think what ends up happening here is you're going to get some revenge. I think that Texas is going to get revenge. They're going to get revenge for not only themselves but the conference. And I think that they're going to take it to Ohio State. I mean, close game. Obviously, Ohio. We say what you want about Ohio State's schedule in previous years. That's not the case this year. They have one of the tougher schedules, not only in the Big Ten but the country. They have including this game, and then in their own conference, they're going to play a good bit of teams where we were saying last year, oh, they're just waiting for that Indiana, Big Ten title game, and you know, and maybe Michigan or another game, Oregon, and that was it. That's not the case this year. They have a schedule, but they're going to come in. I think this is going to be where, for the moment, some of the arch naysayers will be silenced for the moment. And I think that he plays well enough in this game. I think the environment is going to be insane. You know, I'm going to go with Texas to go 2-0 and beat Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't necessarily think that we touched on a little bit of this in our group chat earlier, but I don't necessarily think that Arch is the worst quarterback out there, right? But where I come into play with Arch is like he gets all this hype, like he's the best quarterback in the nation. He's the Heisman front runner, and I get that a lot of that has to do with the team that he's on and the talent that's around him. But and Texas fans may disagree with me. I mean, you guys follow this program every day, the ones that are in here. But I honestly, I think if you hooked Sark up to a lie detector test and you said, are there 6 to 8 quarterbacks that in the nation right now that you would take and put on your team and trade for Arch, he would take that without a doubt. He would take that. I think that Darian Mintz, I'm not even going to name them, but I think that there's 6 to 8 quarterbacks that he would take over Arch. But I do think that Arch has a good year this year. I mean, he's going to be a senior. I don't know. There's not really any red shirts anymore with the 5-5. So regardless what you call it, I don't know if he was red shirted ever, but regardless, he's going to be a senior. It's his 4th year in that offense under Sark. He's got 4 of his 5 offensive linemen returning. I know that I believe they got the kid from Wake Forest is projected as their right tackle, Melvin Ciani or something like that. But so they have
Yeah.
4 out of 5 of their offensive linemen coming back. They've got Cam Coleman from Auburn, who is just begging to be on a team that could use him properly. I mean, the guy is
What
just, I mean,
malpractice by Hugh Freeze, right?
dude. I mean, what's crazy to me is, you hear about Ryan Williams, you hear about you hear about why am I blanking on Jeremiah from Ohio State? Are you kidding me? I can't even think of his name right now, and he's the best wide receiver in the nation. But you hear about the 2 big dogs from Ohio State and Alabama, and I think that Cam Coleman is, I mean, talent wise, right? Jeremiah Smith, my bad. Sorry, I don't know why
Yeah,
I
that's him.
mind blanked
Yeah.
on that.
Because there's a
But
camera on you. That's why.
yeah, but you've got these badass receivers that everybody talks about and they have talked about for a long time. I put Cam Coleman right up there with him as far as the talent perspective. I think that he was just hidden. I mean, everybody still saw what he could do at Auburn, but when I don't think that even Jeremiah Smith would put up the numbers that everybody thinks he would with Jackson Arnold throwing him the ball. So. I think that Cam Coleman's just an absolute weapon. Ryan Wingo struggled with some drops last year. I think that changes. I mean, that's obviously just hit the jugs, right? Like you can get better at
Yeah.
that, but he's electric, man. I mean, he's an electric wide receiver. He's a 5-star for a reason. They're really high on Emmett Mosley in the slot this year. I've been reading a lot of articles that say that just nothing but great things out of camp from Emmett Mosley, just a guy who does everything right. And that's the kind of guy you want in the slot, right? I mean, like obviously you can use the guys like Antonio Brown who are just electric in the slot. The Tyreek Hills who are just, can just burn and turn and you can put them anywhere, but they can kill it in the slot. But you can also have guys like Wes Welker and Cooper Kupp and the Emmett Mosleys of the world who just do everything right. And when you're a fantastic route runner and you can really sell your routes coming from the slot, you're going to get those matchups. Not so much with linebackers anymore because the defenses kind of run that spread up tempo defense now with nickel and dimes with the extra DBs in there. But even if you're a consistent route runner, I mean, you're just so tough to guard, knowing how to use your body, knowing how to come out of a route, knowing how to come out of breaks, knowing how to attack a corner's feet. And so, I think that they expect big things from Emmett Mosley this year. And then their backfield, dude. I mean, you're talking about Smothers. You're talking about Raleek Brown. I mean, that's the best 1-2 punch in football, and I don't think that anybody's even particularly close. Miami's got a hell of a backfield. I don't know that their 1-2. Their depth is huge, but I don't. With Mark Fletcher's a monster, but I don't know that you have that 1-2 punch anywhere like Texas has with Hollywood Smothers and Raleek Brown. And with their O line coming back, I just think it's going to be really easy for Arch to shine. Playing in Texas this year. I think it's a get back game for Texas. I think that they get Ohio State. I think they start out 2-0. And I don't mean to give away my hand, but I've already said that I think Texas is a playoff team in the SEC, one of my four. So you can probably see a trend of where this is going with
Yeah.
Texas for me.
Yeah, I have an interesting mine's going to probably be I don't know how many people I'm going to piss off tonight. Mine it's one of those things where I don't think Texas is a playoff team, but it's almost by default because they can't take I don't think five SEC teams are going to get in, and I've already picked my four. So it's one of those things where Texas is going to lose late, and I think it's going to cause them to get kicked out. And it's one of those things where I could be completely wrong. I read some stuff on A&M today where a lot of people are high on A&M. I know that you are not one of them. There are a lot of people that are not, but I was reading stuff today where a lot of people are high on them. And if you're high on Georgia and Ole Miss and LSU is going to be there, Tennessee could be there. All these teams are going to be there. Someone is going to get left out. Texas got quote unquote left out last year, but they had three losses, so it doesn't actually count that way. But I think that they're going to be the team that's going to get left out because they're going to have to choose from A&M and Texas in the end, and whoever wins that game is going to get in. That is my sicko theory of the night. All right, I could be completely wrong. You could let me know if I'm completely wrong, and this is a good opportunity to tell you how you can let us know when we're completely wrong. At SEC Front Porch on Twitter or X, whatever you happen to call it nowadays, which I call it Twitter. JW Sports 704 is me, RO_CO_Vols. For Seth Meredith, my co-host over there. So be sure and follow us on YouTube. Having some growth there as well. Please continue to follow us at the SEC Front Porch. You'll see the logo on the top left of this broadcast. It'll be there. Subscribe. Hit the notifications button so you know when we're live, and we're going to be having a lot of fun this year as we get into football. It's coming, folks. It's a great time of year. Let's continue with Texas.
Also, just
Yeah,
so
go
you
for it, man.
know, for all the sickos out there, I too am watching the Furman Anderson D2 game, and Furman did not look good on their first offensive drive of the game, and so now Anderson has the ball and 2nd and 5, putting it down Furman's throat. So take the over and take the points when Tennessee plays them. That would be my suggestion. But go ahead, proceed. Sorry.
Odds maker, odd. No, you're good, man. Odds maker, Daddy Donnie. You always want to stick with the daddy. You know what I mean when you're doing these things. I actually, from my profile, from my Twitter profile, I just quote tweeted Big Orange Energy. He's watching it, and I quote tweeted and I said, "You are man. I am props to you for scouting that opponent because we were just talking about it, and you are one of those sickos. I figured you would be, man, because that's that you were dedicated. That's why. Um, let's continue. I think um, we can probably mark Texas down for a 3-0 start as they get UTSA 3 games in 3 weeks at home. The 5th, the 12th, and the 19th. This will be the 19th, a night game at DKR at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock Eastern. I guess that's 7 o'clock your time because you live in that time zone. Um, but I'm going to mark Texas down for a win. I don't see a problem here. We've seen UTSA be pesky in the past, but I don't think this is going to be a problem for this Texas team coming off a big victory against Ohio State. I'll take the Longhorns and I'll take them to go 3-0.
Yeah, I don't see any trouble with this. I think that for me, you've got the Ohio State game, but it's at home. You've got a couple of new pieces that you want to get used to, but from with me watching, and this could totally change in the next couple of years. We don't really have a huge sample size, but with the portal, the
Sometimes
hardest
it is a
thing
border.
that yeah, the hardest thing for people to really hit on in year one for me is receivers. You hardly ever see those receivers that come in year one and plug and play and have that big year. Now they do happen, but they don't happen as often as a running back or a quarterback or something like that. And so there's all kind or a defensive player. There's tons of different positions that hit much faster than a receiver. So I don't think that Texas is going to have too much of a layover getting Raleek Brown and getting Hollywood Smothers used to the
Yeah.
offense. But I think that Cam Coleman's such a freak. He's just going to be happy that somebody's throwing him the ball down there. And
Yeah.
so
Seriously.
I think that Texas is going to come out rolling pretty strong. I think that their defense is incredibly talented. So I just don't see much of a pushback from Texas for any of these small games, especially UTSA. Now they do travel to Neyland the next week, which is a very interesting
Maybe.
game. But
Yeah.
they're going to have some good games under their belt. Getting Ohio State at home is huge, and then having a couple of cupcake games like 90% of the nation is big for them to kind of get the ball rolling.
Yeah. 3-0 Texas team comes to Neyland. Um, and, we talked about this the other night. We both have Texas in this game over Tennessee. I don't like it. I don't have to like it. Some of the stuff I've been hearing about Arch and his struggles in scrimmages and at camp this fall definitely have me thinking that this game is going to be, I thought it was going to be close anyway. I'm not going to flip my predict. I'm not going to flip my projection right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it, and um, I'm comfortable with that. But I will think it's going. I do think it's going to be a really good game. I mean, there's just the environment at Neyland. You can't say anything more positive about it, and I think it's going to you know, you mentioned Hollywood Smothers. Look, Tennessee played Hollywood Smothers when he was at NC State. I don't think that Hollywood Smothers is going to be the problem. I think that it's Brown, it's the guys on the outside. I think together, I think collectively they are a problem. Their defense is going to be really good. I think that's an issue. I think if for Tennessee, if you can keep it close, you really don't know what can happen. You get into the later portions of the game, it can be, it's a penalty, a fumble, an interception, something on special teams, anything really. But I'll stick with my Texas pick for right now, and I have the Longhorns going 4-0 at this point.
Yeah, I think it's just a really tough game for Tennessee with Faison Brandon being in the early stages of where he's going to be at in his development. And in fairness to Hollywood Smothers, that was his fresh redshirt freshman year when he played
Right.
Tennessee. So it
Yeah.
wasn't like we have 3 years Hollywood Smothers. Last year was just what he was doing was out of this world, and then he had
Mhm.
Grayson McCall in the backfield with him for 90% of that game. So I don't think that you got to see all the tools of Hollywood Smothers when Tennessee played him. He was very young and had Grayson McCall, and I think that running
Yeah.
behind this massive O line, and he's just a big play waiting to happen. He's dynamic, and so that's the biggest thing for Tennessee in this game is can you limit the big plays and keep everything in front of you? You're going to have guys like Wingo and Coleman that can just absolutely take the top off of defense. You're going to have guys like Smothers who can just break it at any time. Raleek Brown is an absolute nightmare out of the backfield. That is the biggest thing about him is he is a go-getter. He can get it in the. I mean, he's an extra receiver. I mean, what he does is just a matchup nightmare. But he's also fantastic between the tackles. He's got great speed to get around the edge. He's just a complete back. I think he's going to be a really high draft pick after the season is over. I think you get to showcase all of his talents, and I think it's going to be one of the best 1-2 punches in college football since Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins at Ohio State. I mean, I'm that high on them. That's why I'm so high on Texas because my biggest thing on Texas is I think that there's one thing that can really throw them off, and that's Sark. Sark always finds a way to screw something up if he can, but I just don't see how he can do that this year with just so many weapons around him. But who am I? Who am I to say he can't? Like, watch him show me. But I think that Tennessee's still going to be relatively young in the season. I think that I do think that Nealon causes a problem for anybody that comes in there. I think that Tennessee will be undefeated. Texas will be undefeated. A noon kickoff, so it won't be as rowdy, but it'll still those people bring it no matter what time of day it is. So I do think the environment will have a lot to do with it, but I think that ultimately Texas is just going to be too much. But I will say this. As a Tennessee fan, you better beat Tennessee early in the season because if Faison is what everybody's saying he is, the jumps that he's made from spring ball to now, if you let him take those jumps as he gets more experience from fall camp to November, it's going to be a hell of a time shutting that guy down. So take advantage of it while you can, Texas. But give me Texas, and I think it's a pretty close game. But give me Texas to go 4-0.
Yeah, update on Furman from our friend Rural Vol. Furman is buns, is what he says. Faison's going to look like Cam Newton. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm watching him. Don't sleep on Jake Garcia. He's only been to 4 teams and thrown like 6 passes in the last 2 years. But the guy was a top 50 pick. He balled out at ECU when Joey was at App State. They had some really good battles against each other.
right.
So the guy can sling it. But when you're slinging it to a receiver who's got concrete in his shoes, I'm not sure that there's any difference in how good you are. But he's also a head case. So he
Oh,
played at
great.
Michigan last year. Nobody really wanted him, but he kind of reminds me of a very like a Spencer Rattler type, where he can get really hot, but if he makes a couple of mistakes, he hits quicksand and everything just gets deeper and deeper until he's out of the game completely.
Yeah, yeah. Reminds me of kind of like Tate Martell. I don't know why that name popped into my head because this guy just keeps going everywhere and can't stick at anything. So that's
He
kind of
they
where I'm
tried
at
to
on
they
that.
tried to make Tate Martell a receiver. They tried to move him to wide receiver. He was so buns at quarterback.
That's really buns when you try to get moved to a different position. Um, so Texas is undefeated. They are 1, 2, 3, 4-0 at this point, and now it's the Red River. So in between Tennessee and the Red River is a bye week. It's early. It's not ideal. It really depends. Look, I mean, when you're cooking, you don't want a bye week. You want to keep going. And I think their bye week would have been more suited for them weeks down the road, but they get it early, then they get Oklahoma. I don't think it's going to matter what week they played Oklahoma. I'm going to take Texas. I know that, you know, it's not exactly, you know, the most ideal probably to come in and play a top 10 Oklahoma team. I'm down on Oklahoma this year. You're big on their defense. Their defense is good. There's no doubt in that. It will win them some games. Um, there's quite a disparity between what you thought about Oklahoma and me. You have them at 10 wins, I have them at 7. So they'll probably end up 8 or 9. I mean, they may end up with 10, but they'll probably end up with more than 7. But still, I said what I said, and I'll stick with it. And so for that, and all that I said, I'm going to go with Texas to go 5-0. You got to think at this point, it's got to be a playoff, right? It's going to be an undefeated. It's got to be a playoff, but that's why you got to stay tuned, kids. So that's what I got on Texas.
So for me, I am bigger on Oklahoma than you are. I think that defense travels. I think that their offense has upgraded since last year. I don't think that it can be much worse, especially in the running game. I think Mateer's healthy. Their defense is always going to be a diesel defense. So that's why I'm high on Oklahoma. I think that but this is a game where I don't know, man. I mean, this game is anything can kind of happen. It's a lot like the Iron Bowl, where no matter just you just don't know what's going to happen. Now Texas has looked a lot better over the last 4 years. I think they're 3-1 over the last 4 years. The only win Oklahoma has was 34-30 in 2023. Texas has won 49 to nothing, 34-3, and 23-6, if my notes are correct. So Texas has really dominated this over the last 4 years. I do like Oklahoma, but it's almost like the Tennessee versus Georgia, Alabama, or Georgia versus Alabama, the Kentucky versus Tennessee. Until the team shows me that they can consistently start winning against these teams with the coaches that are in place. I'm not talking about history Oklahoma, because I am a big Oklahoma fan, and there was a time that Texas could not touch you guys. I love living in Oklahoma City, so if you see me passing on the sidewalk or driving on the road, you don't have to get too upset with me. I have you guys going to the playoffs. I just don't have you guys winning this game.
Yeah.
So I like Texas in this game. I just think that Texas, what they did last year was now this is a different Oklahoma team. I get it. I think their offense is going to be better. But I've seen this happen with Tennessee in the past, and I know that Oklahoma fans will know exactly what I'm talking about. But when you face teams that have a really elite defense, and Oklahoma's offense cannot keep them on the field, they cannot give the defense a break. Your defense gets so tired. I mean, there's nothing that they can do when they're on the field for 80% of the game, 85% of the game. You can be the most elite defense in the world, and you're still going to get tired. You're still going to start to get pushed around. And that's what happened to Oklahoma last year. It was a pretty close game. And then going in late in the game, Texas just started kind of, unleashing their will on them. And it was because Oklahoma's offense couldn't do anything. Oklahoma's defense was on the field 90% of the game. Of course, they're going to get fatigued. So I think that could be the story of it again. I do think it's much closer than what it was last year, which they did pull away later on in the game. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Oklahoma fans, but I'm pretty sure that was the case. I've watched a lot of football since then, but I think that Texas is going to take this one just what they've done in the last 4 years. I know that shouldn't matter, but it just does. I've watched it happen with Tennessee against Georgia, where they've outplayed them a couple of times. Not a lot, Georgia fans, not a lot, but Tennessee has last year. They completely outplayed them and figured out a way to lose that game. And so it just happens. And when games get close, it just happens. So I love you, Oklahoma fans, but give me Texas.
Yeah, that game last year, Mateer had broke his hand or a bone in his hand or his wrist or his pinky or his thumb. I don't know. He broke a bone in his hand and he had just come back for that game, and he wasn't the same. You could tell, and that's what gave me hope as a Tennessee fan that things would go differently in Knoxville, which they did not at all, unfortunately. So yeah, you got a 5-0 Texas team at this point. I mean, they're cruising, man. They've had their bye week. They've beaten Ohio State, they've beaten Tennessee, they've beaten. I mean, they're the number one team in the country. If if Texas beats Ohio State, who was the number one team in the country, in fact, they'd probably be the number one team right after that game, right? Rightfully, they should be. They're number one. They're cruising. They got a matchup against Florida, which is a revenge game. This game is in Austin. Last year, they absolutely this team shit the bed, literally and figuratively against Florida. It shouldn't have happened. It did. It was not good. And I think this is the get right game in terms of that series lately. Texas is going to walk all over Florida. Um, I like John Summerall. We're both higher on Florida than Tennessee fans probably should be, but nonetheless, I think that's a tribute to Summerall and his staff and what he's been able to bring in, and I mean, just pick up the mess that Billy Napier left. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, Billy did some good things, but it was a mess. It really was. And so I got Texas big. If it's a big spread or whatever it is, take it. I'm not a bookie. I'm not an odds maker. Don't listen to me, but that's what I would do. All right. So give me Texas to go 6-0 so far on this 2026 year.
Yeah, and the reason that I'm higher on Texas than you are, and I'm lower on Texas A&M than you are, is because of the offensive line. When you return that many starters from an offensive line that have already produced and shown that they can punch you in the mouth, they can get a really good run game, that shit matters down the stretch in the SEC. Because when you don't have anything, if you can protect the quarterback, your quarterback's going to look like a Heisman Trophy winner every week. If you get anybody back there, if you get Brian Maurer back there for
Oh God.
15 seconds, his receivers are going to get open and he's going to make the right read, right? Like that's just the way college football works. If you can push a D line back 3 yards, your running game is going to be successful. And that's just the way college football works. And when it gets colder and people start getting hurt and these teams start thinning out, because with the NIL in the portal, there's no depth. There's absolutely no depth. So every team is 1 to 2 injuries away from losing their entire season. That's what makes it big for me. So Texas has an incredible O-line. They've got 2 incredible running backs, and they have a quarterback that can run. I mean, those 3 things, or those 4 things right there, 2 running backs, an O-line, and a quarterback. I know that sounded like 3, but my East Tennessee public school education math is coming out. So just stick with
Hey,
me.
I understand.
Quarterback,
I
2
understand.
running backs, O-line, 4 things. Those 4 things right there can take them a long way when the games get dirty. But that's what Florida did to them last year. They made the game dirty. Florida had a hell of a D-line. They could push you around. They're always going to have athletes and big boys on that D-line. They're physical. And if that was Summerall's teams, right? Like, I mean, that was what's his Billy Barrels, Billy Napier's teams. They
Yeah.
were physical. They played physical ball, even if they did stupid stuff and he was a terrible coach in the SEC. they always played physical and they always had athletes on the field. And so I think that's going to be the case under Summerall again. But I think that Texas is just too much. I think it's a get back game. It's not at the Swamp, which the Swamp is a very intimidating place to play. I
Yeah,
mean that
it is.
that will rattle you. It will, and the longer, even if a Florida team's down, if they're dead and down, the longer that they stay in the game, the more their fans are going to be involved because they haven't had anything to cheer for all game. I saw it happen to Tennessee in the mid 2000s when we were just absolutely trash. That we still went to all the games, and by the third quarter, if we left, we left. But if we were in the game, man, we were twice as fired up because we'd only seen us win one SEC game. Thanks, Derek Dooley. So, by the time that we were in those games late in the game, I mean, we just got rowdier and rowdier. So Florida becomes a really intense place to play. So it's not at the
Yeah,
Swamp, it's in Austin. Texas is going to have revenge on their mind. I think that they run the ball at will. I think that they smacked Florida pretty good, and it's going to be a much improved Florida team, but they're not improved enough to hang with Texas. So give me Texas in this one.
yeah, we're on the same page. We have been for the first half of their schedule, 6-0 Florida, or sorry, 6-0 Texas, as we just talked about them versus Florida. Now they come home, or they stay home, I should say. It looks like Texas has a bunch of their schedules front loaded at home, is what it looks like, because you've got week one, week two, week three at home. Then they get the road game at Tennessee. Then it's a neutral, and then it's home, home again. So you're going to see some road games at the end of the year, no doubt about it. This one is at home. Ole Miss comes in. We talked about Ole Miss a couple episodes ago. I'm higher on them than you are. I have them going 11-1 with a loss to Georgia, and it's not to Texas. And I'm not going to change now. I know that it's in Austin. I really like Ole Miss this year to repeat what they did last year, maybe even go deeper. I don't know. Look, the only deeper they could go is national title game, and I don't know if that's going to happen, but I like them to make another deep run. I think they have enough. I know that there's some rebuilding on a portion of their team. I get it. I'm just higher on them. It starts with Chambliss, and it's Lacey, and it's just I think these guys are going to have a chip on their shoulder because of what happened with Lane. We don't talk enough about the mental and the emotional aspect of football, even though we know it's there. We don't talk enough about it. I think that because they almost got there and Lane left, all this is happening at the same time. And all the talk between both teams, all the off season between the fans and the teams and I Charlie Weiss and Pete Golding and everything going on. I see a lot in them, and I'm going to go with Ole Miss in this game. I'm going to stay that way. They're going to give Texas their first loss on October 24th in Austin.
Yeah, for me, I don't think that Ole Miss has the receivers to match up. I don't think that their O line is going to be able to match up. Momentum is a real thing. Texas has. I know that I'm really high on Dylan Stewart. I'm really high on a lot of players, but Texas has the best defensive player in the country. Colin Simmons is an absolute monster playing that jack position. He's going to be an absolute nightmare for Chambly. I think that if Chambly can get out of the pocket, it's a long day for a lot of teams. I'm big on Kewan Lacey. I think that Pete Golden's defense is always going to be a pretty good defense. We've seen that. He's shown it. But for me, I think that Colin Simmons is going to be a real force in this game. I think that he eats. Lance Jackson coming on the other edge is another future NFL player. They do have the kid from Arkansas that transferred in as their nose tackle, who's 375 pounds. So I think that their defensive line makes a real problem for Ole Miss. Out of the last 32 years, 30 times in the last 32 years, a team in the top 10 that started in the preseason top 10 was not ranked in the top 25 when the season ended. For me, that team is Ole Miss this year. I think that they fall out of the top 25 by the end of the year. I'm just not as high on Ole Miss as a lot of teams are. I saw it happen. I know that baseball is a different sport, but losing a head coach and an entire offensive staff can really, really mess with your rhythm. It can really, really mess with it. We saw Tony Vitello leave. He took his pitching coach with him. He took his strength coach with him. Tennessee went from 5, 6 straight super regionals to being the first SEC team bounced in the NCAA tournament. It can really, really, really mess with the team. Pete Golding is not an offensive coach. He's not. He brought in the guy from ECU to run the offense. We'll see how him and Chambly work well together. I'm not really high on their wide receivers. I think they have all the talent in the world, but I'm just not super high on guys that have 500 yards receptions coming down from Syracuse. That's just me personally. So I think it's going to be a long day for Chambly. I think that Texas gets this one, and they continue unbeaten up until this point.
Yeah. Yep. You got them at 7-0. I'm at 6-1 with Texas is this, at this point. Um, Leads to a game against Mississippi State on Halloween. We talked about Mississippi State a little bit, as we go through these previews, you find yourself talking about teams multiple times and in multiple ways. I'm not high on Mississippi State. You're a little higher on them than I am. I mean, 3 wins might be a little harsh, but I mean, this isn't one of them, and this isn't going to be close either. I don't think. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a pretty good beatdown. I mean, you know, if you're a coach in Starkville, you're trying to save your job, right, Jeff Levy, and keep your job. And I don't know why they would get rid of him, but college athletics is a business where if you're not showing me something now or soon or really, really soon, you're gone. And I just think that it may be that you may see 3 coaches at least in the SEC gone um, before the end of the year. It could be Beamer. It could be Levy. I know that Drinkowitz has somewhat of a new deal, but for God's sakes, how long can we do this? How long can Missouri just be a 500 or hover around there? I know a couple of years ago they beat Ohio State in a bowl game. I get that, but how long can they just not be a factor in the top half of the league? I think you've got to try and at least address that. But you could have some turnover. All that to say, Texas is going to take care of Mississippi State pretty easily, I would say.
Yeah, I'm big on Fluff. I love him as a running back. I saw what he got to do, up close and personal last year. He's a physical runner. He kind of searches for contact. He's going to have Kamario Taylor in the backfield with those RPOs and the veer and shoot with Levy. They can certainly be dangerous, and I think that they will be a little bit more dangerous than what they were last year. But I don't think that this is one of those games where they're going to be dangerous. I'm really, really high on Texas's defense again. I think they've got a couple of there's NFL players all over it, but I think that they've got just dogs running all over the field. They've got quite a bit of returning starters. I've already talked about how I feel, um, you know, about um, about Colin Simmons. I think that he's the probably the best defensive player in the nation. So I think that it's just going to be a rough day for Mississippi State. I do think that they're. I don't think that they're. I'm not higher on them by any means. I just have them winning the same amount of games as they did last year because I think their quarterback's better. I do have them winning more than 3 games, but that's
Yeah.
just me personally. But this is definitely not one of them. So give me Texas to stay undefeated for me.
Yeah. So I mean, Mississippi State last year they got off to a 4-0 start, and then they went 1-8 down the stretch. I guess you can kind of say that their wins are a little bit more spread out here. If there's a 5-win potential, it's a little bit more spread out. They won't go 1-8 down the stretch and to get 5 wins. But still, yeah, no, we're both on the same page there when it comes to them. 8-0 for you, 7-1 for me. That leads to a game, an old Big 12 rival, Missouri in Columbia on November 7th. Um, we just touched on Missouri and a 500 team in our estimation, in our predictions. Predictions sure to go right, I guess, especially mine. For God's sakes, I've kind of made. I've made some interesting ones. Now that is why they play the games. I mean, I could end up being closer, and it could also end up being just terrible, which is extremely possible. I'm not good at this. This is just something fun. You know what I'm saying? That we try and get out of this. But this is not going to go very well for Eli Drinkowitz in November. It's going to be cold. It's going to be, Missouri's not going to. They're going to be fighting for bowl eligibility at this point. Just trying to put together enough wins, and it's not going to be on this night. Give me the Longhorns to go 8-1.
Yeah, I just hope that they're still shooting the Missouri way or whatever that documentary that the Missouri Athletic Department is shooting right now on YouTube when they play these games because you talk about entertainment, seeing Dorkowitz so raging mad that you know his face gets all red and he looks like Ralphie from A Christmas Story. That'll be entertainment to me. But I think the reason that they have him is because 6-6 at Missouri is pretty standard. I don't think anybody's going to be calling for your job at 6-6 at Mizzou. I do think that Mizzou has some weapons. I'm not really convinced that they have a ton. I mean, they've probably got the best running back in the SEC. Ahmad Hardy's just an absolute animal. But I just I don't. I mean, Austin Simmons wasn't too impressive when he was starting at Ole Miss last year
Yeah.
before he got banged up and lost his job. So I don't think that this will be much of a challenge, no matter if it's played at Mizzou or not. And they got those weird rocks that everybody's looking at. I still take Texas in this one. It's not cold enough to be miserable in Mizzou yet, but it'll still be nasty. But I don't think it matters. I think that Texas can. They beat Oklahoma last year in the Red River Shootout by pounding the run game, whether it was Arch, however they got it done, they got it done. I think that just is even better this year on steroids. So it doesn't matter if Arch isn't completing passes or his passing game doesn't look good, which I think it will look better. But I think that they're just going to be able to run the ball at will on a lot of teams, and this will be one of those games. So give me Texas again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got him at 9-0. I mean, is this going to be one of them undefeated seasons for the Longhorns? I guess we'll stay tuned. We got a few more games to go. Thanks for coming and hang out. We got a great crowd tonight. Appreciate you guys so much. Make sure and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Uh, the SEC Front Porch. When you search that, you might see some other things, but look for our logo on the top left of the screen here, and then you'll be able to subscribe using that as well. Put the notifications on so you know when we're live. We got football on now and this weekend and next weekend, and we're going to be talking about it each week. Um, I don't think we've decided what day. We've been doing it Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I think we're going to continue. I think we're going to shift to one show, one a week, I think. Um, so just be on the lookout. If you subscribe, you'll know when we're live. That's the bottom line. And follow the show at SEC Front Porch on X or Twitter, and then JW Sports for me, and RO_CO_balls for Seth over there. Um, but yeah, no, I mean 9-0. Yeah, I got him at 8-1. I mean, either way you slice it, a really, really a fantastic start for Texas, and look for them. You want to seal the deal here and make sure you get a playoff berth. This next stretch of games, they're not going to be any fun. Two of them at least. One of them will be fine. One of them should be cake. But the other one's not so much. LSU is next up for Texas in Baton Rouge. Um, if that, I mean, don't know if that's going to be a night game. If it is, oh boy, because let's talk about LSU and night games. They don't really lose many of them. I don't know if it matters if it's a night game or not. Um, in this particular aspect, I'm going to take Texas. Um, I like the Horns. I like them to beat LSU. I think that LSU has lost like 8 night games or something like that since they've had night games, which is forever. Um, I think it's a case of Lane Kiffin year one. Um, he's not going to be able to get them all. He's gonna get his fair share, but he's not going to be able to get them all. He's not going to be able to get this one. Um, I think it's a case of you know you're talking about late November, or mid-November. So some of these freshmen are now quote unquote almost sophomores, right? And some of these, these players that are lower classmen might go to upperclassmen. I think that Texas is going to shine in this game. I think this is a really good opportunity for Arch to put a lot of these naysayers, to the side. It's definitely a toss-up game. It could very well be. I'll take Texas to go to 9-1.
Yeah, for me, I was listening to SEC Mike talk about Sam Levitt earlier today, and he really nailed a comparison for me, where he was talking about who Levitt reminds him of, and he said he reminds him of an SEC Bo Nix, which just completely resonated with me because, if you watch Levitt play against Mississippi State last year, I think he had less than 100 yards passing and just looked awful, awful in that game. And I think that that's kind of what Levitt's going to be this year. The guy has one of the highest ceilings of any quarterback in the SEC, but he's also got one of the lowest floors. And when he's on, he's going to be running around the field like he did in the playoff game and hitting passes that he has no business fitting into. He's going to be scrambling down the field. And Kiffin's going to simplify that offense for him. It's a very quarterback friendly offense that Kiffin runs, makes it easy on the quarterback to make these reads. But this game being at LSU, I'm sure it's going to be a night game. I'm not really sure what the time slot is, but I would be shocked if it wasn't a night game,
Should
prime
be.
time probably.
Yeah.
I don't know if I took them with LSU on LSU's side, but the more I think about it, I just think that LSU playing at night, I think that they're going to be coming off a couple of losses. I think LSU is going to be a 3-loss team this year, but I think that this might be my game that Texas drops. I think that this is the game. Looking at Texas's schedule now, and the reason I say that is because even if I think that Texas wins this game, I can't have a team going undefeated with 9-game SEC slate. I just can't do it. Like I can't get myself to do it. So I'm going to
Yeah.
take LSU to beat Texas in this game. Give me Sam Levitt to have one of the Bo Nix historical games and not one of the Bo Nix bad games. So I'll take LSU.
Yeah, I've been paying attention a lot more to Mike Bratton now because he's really high on Tennessee, higher, I should say. And he hasn't been in
Has him
years
as he has
past
us a
when
playoff team.
yeah, and you know what the thing is that people ask him why, and he said, well, more things than the quarterback matter, like 800-yard receivers coming back and an 1,000-yard running back and 4 out of 5 starters on the O line, and you got the best hire you could make defensively as your coordinator, and you've got Derek Owens and the strength team and players coming over defensively to install that system. I haven't heard Bratton talk this good about Tennessee, and it makes me wonder, like, there's something to this because if he's a Tennessee grad. If he's talking about Tennessee after not, then I think that there's something to that, and I think we've got to look at that a little bit further. I'm digging it personally. Um, we both have Texas at 9-1 now. You have their first loss at LSU. Um, I have them losing to Ole Miss, and this brings us to a game in later November against Arkansas, and that game is in Austin. It's senior day. It's going to be a lot of fun for if you're a Texas fan. Not so much if you're an Arkansas fan. We both have them going 2-10. Talking about the Hogs, I don't know if they will go 2-10. They may get another win or two. It's going to be really tough for Ryan Silverfield to do anything positive in year one. Not saying he can't do anything positive in a couple of years after year one. Um, say what you want about Memphis and the translation of everything coming over to the SEC. This is going to be a really tough year. I'll take Texas, and they're 10-1 at this point.
Well, that means if they're 10-1, they only can lose one more game in your
They
schedule,
can.
which means a 10-2 Texas team will be a playoff team. So that's 5 SEC teams in your playoff, which is crazy. I mean, I think that somebody asked 4.5 earlier, and so I mean, it could happen, but 5 out of 12 would be nuts with a 9-game SEC schedule. I would love to see that. So yeah, I go on that ramble because there's just nothing really left to say about Arkansas, right? I think that Ryan Silverfield has the worst team in the league. I mean, he brought a bunch of Memphis players over. One of them didn't even win the job at QB, lost out to KJ Jackson, I believe is his name. So, I just don't see it. I don't see Arkansas being very competitive with the big boys. I think that you have the two talent. Now the game still has to be played, right? Like you still have to play the game, so it doesn't matter how talented a team is. It can only go so much. You still have to spot the ball. But I do think that Texas and Georgia are the two most talented teams in the SEC this year. And so I would say if Texas and Arkansas played 99 times, or if Texas and Arkansas played 100 times, Texas would probably win 100 times. So I'm going to take Texas to win this one over Arkansas.
Do you remember? You remember Lee Corso, right? Wasn't that long ago. He was on
Hmm.
College Game Day, and sometimes he would take a pen like this, and he would go, "Not so fast, my friend. Not so fast, my friend." And I will tell you why. Because yes, I do have Texas going 10-2. I have a feeling this may or may not happen. So I'm going to leave it up to the
It will
football
not.
gods.
The,
I'm going to
with a
leave it up
nine
to them.
game SEC schedule, with a 9 game SEC schedule, I know what you're about to say, and I'll let you finish. But think about this: with a 9 game SEC schedule and a game against Ohio State, so they will be
Right,
playing 6 to 7 ranked teams, and there are only going to be 2 losses. They will absolutely be in the playoffs if they go 10-2. The only reason that they wouldn't be is if they go 9-3. There is no way they will leave a Texas team out in a 9 game SEC schedule with 2 losses, and one of their wins is against Ohio State. That will just, there's no way that'll happen.
what if it comes down to a Notre Dame team and a Texas team getting in, and Notre Dame is guaranteed that slot if they're 11-1 or 10-2? If it comes down to those two,
So
now I'm not
they'll,
saying it would come down to those two, but if it did, they can't leave Notre Dame out. That's my only thing.
well, there's only at large bids, right? So you get the
Right.
P5 or the group of 5 at large. Notre Dame, if they're in the top 12, get an automatic bid. Then you have the ACC, the SEC, the Big Ten, and I think that's it, right? ACC, SEC, Big Ten,
Big
and Big
12.
12. So that's six
Yeah.
teams. So that's six
Yeah.
teams. So if 5 10-2 SEC teams make it, that's 11 teams, which would
Right.
make it one other team. So if
Well, you
five
got the
SEC teams go ten
G6
and
too.
two,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I already counted them. I counted them.
Oh, okay.
So if 5 SEC teams go 10-2, they will be in the playoff because they will be
Right.
ranked over every other ACC team that's a 2 loss or even a 1 loss ACC team. A 1 loss ACC team is going to be probably the champion, the ACC champion. Every other team will have 2 losses because they'll have to play both 1 loss teams. They'll have to be an undefeated team go to the championship against a 1 loss team. So there'd have to be a lot of things work out, but I would say there's a 99.2% chance that that a 10-2 SEC team goes to the playoffs because it's a 9 game schedule now, and particularly Texas because they'll have the best out of conference win of anybody in the nation.
Right. Yeah. I think we showed our hand on this Texas team without really talking too much about A&M. We talked about A&M the other night, and it was that I've got him at 10-2, playoff pending. You've got him at 11-1, playoff for sure. You're probably right, but just to kind of spice, kind of spice things up. I only really have four. Because it's tough for me because I have four playoff teams from the SEC, as do you. But there's really five opportunities in my picks. And I just don't know if they're going to go five. They may have no choice, and they may have to. But see, we don't know what the Big 12 is going to do, or the ACC in terms of having multiple playoff potential teams. That could leave somebody
Well,
out,
let,
and
let me
would it
ask you
leave
this.
Texas out? No, but
Let, let me ask you this too. Who was
sure.
your old or who was your losses? Who were your losses for Ole Miss and Texas A&M?
Let's see. Ole Miss lost to Georgia. We just did this the other night, so I should know. Let's see. Let me look at my A&M.
And so Texas A&M,
Mesh.
who were your losses for Texas A&M since we did that Tuesday? Who you remember who they were?
Let's see. Let's see. I think it was LSU, LSU, I believe. I think I had them going 11-1.
So even if we go this route where it's like, okay, Texas A&M has the head-to-head win over Texas, but they're both
Mhm.
10-2, you would start to
Right.
look at the losses. You would start to look at
Yeah,
the wins, who they beat. So Texas beat Ohio State. Their
they did.
losses were at a playoff LSU team and at a playoff A&M team. So their 2 losses were on the road against 2 top 7 teams, probably.
Yeah,
So they would have tremendous losses, and they would have a win against a playoff Ohio State team. So I
right.
just don't see how a committee could leave them out if they go 10-2. That's just me personally. So and I'm not saying you're wrong. But I think at that point,
No,
and I
no, I
also
get
I
what you're saying.
miscounted. I,
Did you?
I also miscounted. Yeah, so if there were five SEC teams in, I counted SEC as an automatic berth and five teams. So that would leave six teams with a bid, and then four teams from the SEC added on to the bid, the automatic bid, which would put it at 10 teams, which would still have two open bids for teams. And I don't think anybody's going to have a better resume than a 9 game SEC team. I don't think there's going to be five teams personally, but if you went with your rationale, you could still have five SEC teams in because I don't think that they would be anybody with a better resume, in my opinion. I think you'd have to put
Yeah.
them in. Then the whole country would riot, but
Yeah, well,
no
that's
matter
why
what
I
you
did
went
that.
off of,
Yeah,
no matter what
that's
you
why I
went
did
off
that.
of, no matter what metrics you went off of, they would have such a strong resume. Every one of them would, because
Right.
LSU would have wins at Tennessee and Texas, and Miss or A&M would have wins against Texas and somebody else. Their resumes would just be so strong. Georgia would have wins against Ole Miss and or Texas. I don't know, like Alabama, whoever they
Yeah.
play. So the
Yeah.
resumes would just be so strong that I think that you just would have to go five SEC teams. That's my opinion.
No, man, you're probably not wrong, and I need to write this stuff down next year because I think I probably crossed myself up, you know what I mean, a little bit, but I don't think you're wrong. The entire country would riot, which is kind of why I went lower. But at these records that I have, I guess you really can't say no to five SEC teams, and people would absolutely have a meltdown. That was Texas, and now we're on to what everybody has been waiting for. Okay, everybody has been waiting for Vanderbilt's 2026 schedule. I'm kidding, but we're going to do it anyway. Um, Before we do that, make sure to subscribe to the SEC Front Porch on YouTube. Make sure to follow the SEC Front Porch on X or Twitter, whatever you call it. Not sure if the comments are working tonight. I don't know what's going on with that, but if you can hear my voice and you want to try and leave a comment, um, either on YouTube or even on X, please do so I can see if this is working. Just tell me something about ourselves, and then we'll go from there. Um, Obviously, Vanderbilt, a 10-win team last year. Diego Pavia. We know about everything that happened last year. This is not last year. You have some guy named Blaze as their starting quarterback right now. All right, and I'm not. And look, he's the guy that sat behind Pavia. He was at New Mexico State, I believe. He's been with Jerry Kill. He knows what's expected of the offense, and I have no doubt that he'll be pretty good. This schedule does not really allow for a ton of mistakes, and there's going to be a bunch now. Um, in the non-conference, I could definitely see some, some good things happening for Vandy. Austin P and Delaware is game 1 or 2. Do you want to take a stab at maybe an upset in week 1 or 2 for Vandy, or do we want to give them a couple of those?
I do know that people are really high on Austin P this year. I saw somebody that follows him had him at 11-1 in the FCS, and their only
Mm,
loss being to Vanderbilt. So I do know
mm.
that people are high on Austin P, but I just don't see it happening. I mean, not in the NIL era, not in the transfer portal era. Vanderbilt's still Vanderbilt, but the SEC is much stronger top to bottom. So I just don't see it happening. I don't see an upset there. So no, I don't think that Vanderbilt has any issue getting out of the Delaware and Austin P games. I would love to see Austin P keep it interesting, but I would also love even more if Blaze comes out and just sets the field ablaze and just locks down the job for the year, and then those beautiful Vanderbilt fans lose Jared Curtis to the transfer portal the next year because Clark Leah doesn't have the gall to play him all year. So I would love to see that happen in the meltdown of them losing their prize recruit. But and it very well could. But no, I don't see any trouble with that. I think Vandy starts 2-0 rolling into a CJ Bailey led NC State team.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. I have heard good things about Austin P this year, just like you have. Um, and I mean, do they give Vandy a game? It's very possible, but I'll take the Commodores as well against Delaware. We'll take Vandy there. Week 3 is an early game on September 19th. NC State comes to Nashville to play the Commodores. Um, I don't. I mean, I might be a little bit generous here, but I'm going to take Vanderbilt at home. I don't think a whole lot about most ACC teams. Um, Obviously, there are bright spots. NC State's not one of them, and this is a road game, and it's early in the year, and I'm going to take. There, look, I'll be quite honest. There is not a whole lot of opportunities for victories, and this is going to be one that you're going to want to have. And so I'll take Vanderbilt. I think whoever is the quarterback has a great day, a good enough day to get it done. So give me Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I'm going NC State on this one. I know that they have maybe half a team looking at what their injury report was like against Virginia this weekend.
Yeah,
But I'm just a massive CJ Bailey fan. I think that he's an absolute game changer. I like. I think that Keenan Jackson's a pretty good player. They've also got the Dozier kid at receiver, JoJo Traders on that team. I think that they have enough talent to uh, to make some noise. I think that Dave Dorian has a decent defense every year. I think that they're just going to. I think that they're be a better team than Vanderbilt. To be honest, I think that they've got a better quarterback. I think that they're going to have just as many weapons. I do like Junior Sherrill from Vanderbilt. I think he's a hell of a player. Cedric Alexander had a pretty damn good year last year. I think he had like almost 600 yards rushing and 5.5 yards to carry. But it's a lot different being a Vanderbilt running back this year when you're not having to worry about Diego Pavia crashing down when the end crashes and Diego Pavia taking off. I think that they're going to be able to focus a lot more on the running game, not have to worry about which way it's going in the RPO with Pavia. Pavia was a magician at the RPO. I'll give him that. The guy could flat out read defenses from their playbook. So give me NC State to take Vanderbilt down early.
yeah, I kind of had a feeling you were going to go that way. But Vandy is 2-1 in your prediction, 3-0 in mine, and we get conference play started. At this point, it is just Vanderbilt kind of did it right. Some of these other SEC programs did not. Tennessee is the same way. You get the three non-conference schedule games over early, and then the rest is conference schedule. I don't care for playing a later game, which I know that the SEC is going away from that, but there's still a couple of teams who are doing it, and it must be a rule that they implemented after. But like I was just looking at Mississippi State schedule, and they have a late game, a November game against nobody. I hate that. You know what I mean? I think that's stupid, and I'm glad it's going away. Week 4, Vanderbilt will play Auburn on the Plains. Auburn, we talked about second show that we ever did, and we both picked Auburn. I believe I know I did, and I'm pretty sure you did. I look for Byron Brown to not really have to throw it more than 30 yards. He just needs to, find anybody really. And I think this will be a good opportunity for Auburn to get an early season victory. So give me the Tigers.
Chaz Nimrod legacy game coming in Auburn, Alabama against Vanderbilt, week 4. Give me Auburn. Give me Chaz Nimrod for 170 yards and 3 touchdowns. Chaz Nimrod catches fire. Auburn beats Vandy by 10.5. I'd take the over if it was 10.5.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's a pretty generous spread. Um, so let's see, 3-1 for you. No, sorry, 2-2 for you. Let's see, you got them a loss at NC State and Auburn. Um, that is their first loss for me. So it's 3-1 for me, 2-2 for you. And this is kind of going to continue this way for the most part. Georgia is the next game, October 3rd. This game is in Athens. A tough back-to-back stretch against Auburn and Georgia, and then you got Ole Miss right behind it. But we'll talk about Georgia for a second. I don't think that there's going to be not really a whole lot to dissect here. I think that Gunnar Stockton's going to be able to do whatever the hell he wants. I think he could probably write Georgia in for whatever score you want to put him down. I do hope um, that the young man that decided to flip Jared Curtis from Georgia to Vandy, I do hope he sees time, because if he does, he probably will get put on the ground a lot, and it will make Kirby Smart feel good. It'll kind of it'll be interesting to see. but I'll take Georgia by a lot in this game.
Yeah, Vandy. I mean, what they lost last year was just, overwhelming. And you got to think. I mean, Clark Leah's best season before Diego Pavia and Eli Stowers and all those seniors took over was 6 wins. It's not like this guy's been, and that's, don't get me wrong, it's not bad at Vanderbilt, but it's not like this guy was a national championship contending coach every single year. So he lost a ton of players. And now you're playing, you're playing arguably one of the best teams in the SEC at arguably one of the toughest places to play. And I've said a million times, I don't think that the Georgia's atmosphere is anything special. I do think it's good, don't get me wrong, but I think that you've got places like Tennessee, Florida. I think that LSU, I think that there's Alabama, there's much tougher places to play. I just think that Georgia wins so much, it makes it a very tough place to play between the hedges. And it does get loud, don't get me wrong. So I don't think that that's the biggest deal as is. They're just going to be overmatched at every single level of the field. I do like I said, I do like Junior Sherrill. I know that he had almost 800 yards receiving last year. They brought over
Right.
Ja'Cory Thomas from Old Dominion. He
Mm.
played with Colton Joseph, who I was a big, big fan of last year. Colton Joseph's now at Wisconsin. I think he just won their starting job. He's been really impressive in camp. I'm a big Colton Joseph fan. I don't know that he has quite the year coming over to the SEC. Ja'Cory Thomas, I think that he probably gets slowed down a little, but he is a really, really good player, an exciting player. But I just don't see enough in the tank for Vandy to overcome these big teams on their schedule. Even the top 10 teams in the SEC, I think, are going to probably beat them pretty handily. I think that they're going to have a good shot when they play Arkansas. Maybe Kentucky will be a toss up. But other than that, Mississippi State. But I mean, those are still 60-40 games to me with Mississippi State and Kentucky. So I just think it's going to be a pretty long year for Vandy. So give me Georgia pretty big.
Yeah, I'm with you there. 3-2 for me, 2-3 for you. And another tough game. This happens to be at home against Ole Miss on October 10th. I have Ole Miss going, as I said earlier, 11-1, and the loss is not to Vanderbilt. So, obviously, give me, give me the Rebels and make it 3 losses in a row uh, for Vanderbilt.
Yeah, and just kind of brutal for Vandy because this is where it starts to get to the season where and no offense, Vandy fans, but I've seen more Vandy games than 90% of the SEC just because they're a Tennessee team. I'm from Tennessee. They quote unquote Tennessee's rival. I don't know if you would call it that when they've won one time in, you know, umpteen years. But what starts to happen at this point in the season are more teams come and invade Vandy Stadium because Nashville's such a cool place to go to. Everybody wants to go see Nashville. It's like, hey, let's go to Broadway for a couple days and then watch Ole Miss beat the hell out of Vandy. And that's kind of what I see starting to happen right now. Or most of these teams are going to start invading Vandy Stadium. They're going to be coming on a free trip to, or not a free trip, but they're going to be coming on a trip to Nashville to enjoy their time and to watch their teams. And I think that Ole Miss wins pretty handily in this game.
Yeah, so 3-3 for me, 2-4 for you. That's a 4 game losing streak um, for Vanderbilt in your predictions. But it does get it. There's some this part of the schedule. There is a lot of opportunity. You've got Arkansas, Kentucky, and Mississippi State back to back. You've got the bottom quarter of the conference, or at least the bottom, portion of it is sitting here in front of you. And we both got Arkansas at 2-10. I believe we both predicted Vanderbilt to win. I'm not going to change that. I think that, that's completely doable at home in Nashville on October 17th. Give me the Commodores to break the streak and get back on the winning side of things.
Yeah, Arkansas was a 2-win team and an 0-8 team in the SEC last year. They didn't get any better, I don't think. I don't know if they got any worse, but they certainly didn't get any better, especially when you lose Taylor Green. That was about their only fighting chance they had to keep games interesting last year. So give me Vandy. I think Vandy's a much better team than Arkansas. I think that everybody in the SEC is a much better team than Arkansas. So give me Vandy to win this one.
All right, so 3-4 for you, and that would be 4-3 for me. At through 7 games. Five more to go. The next one is Kentucky, and that game is in Lexington on uh, on October 24th. Um, Will Stein is going to do really well in Lexington. It's just not going to be this year. And this game is at home. I think it's going to be kind of a rock fight. I think it's kind of be going to be like who can kick the most field goals. Kind of a game. I just kind of get that feeling. I don't know. I think that whoever Vandy's quarterback is going to do better. Is going to do more to win this game. So give me Vanderbilt. Um, and give me Vanderbilt for their fifth victory of the year.
Yeah, like I said, I do like what Vandy has on offense, but I just don't know who's going to be getting him the ball. I don't know how good Jared Curtis is. I know that the scouts are really high on him, and usually they know a lot more than I do, but they're not always right, right? Like um, they're not certainly not nailing everything. So I'm just not really sure, even if Jared Curtis is starting at this point in the year, how good he's going to be. I think that Kentucky's in a much better place at quarterback with Kenny Mitchie. I'm not sure how good he is, but I think he's better than anything Vandy has. I like all the Texas fans that might still be watching. Kentucky's running back CJ Baxter. I know that he's got a history of getting banged up. Javante Barnes is also a pretty solid back. I like what they have there. DJ Miller's DJ Miller has done really good things in college. I like Gilmore, Nick Anderson coming over. I just think Kentucky has more weapons. I do think they did more in the portal. I think that Kentucky's defense is going to be better. I think that Kentucky has some real, and Kentucky's offensive line, it's rebuilt, but they got Lance Hurd from Tennessee.
Yeah.
I know that I think they got Malachi Wood at their other tackle. I think that they're going to have a pretty good defensive line. Um, Jay Bateman I like Jay Bateman as a defensive coordinator coming up from A&M. So I think that Kentucky's defense is going to be better. I just think they're going to be in a better spot than Vanderbilt. So give me Kentucky to win that game.
Wow. So 3-5 for you and 5-3 for me, I believe, is where we're at right now. For Vanderbilt. Um, Mississippi State is next. After the bye week on Halloween for them as well. There's a bunch of SEC teams with bye weeks on Halloween for whatever reason. Um, I guess you got to take these kids trick or treating still, even though they're in college. I guess you got to do that. So we'll do that. And then November 7th, Mississippi State. This game is in Starkville. Um, I don't really have a whole lot of good things to say about Mississippi State, but they will win this game. Road games in the SEC are hard to win, and they're extremely hard to win when you're kind of you're beaten up and you've had a lot taken to you already. So I'm going to take Mississippi State in Starkville, and that will give Vanderbilt their fourth loss of the year.
Yeah, I like Jeff Levy. I really like Jeff Levy. I think he runs his offense is a very. I mean, it's very hypo-esque, right? It's another version of that veer and shoot. I think that he runs it really well. I think that Camario Taylor is just an absolute animal. I like Fluff. You're playing at Mississippi State. They get rowdy there. They get very passionate, especially on games that they think they can win. I think that it being at Mississippi State, I think they have a better team. I think they have better players. So give me Mississippi State.
Okay, so that makes them 3-6 um, on yours, and 5-4 for me. So 5-4 for me, 3-6 for you. Alabama comes to Nashville, and I know that there's a lot of talk about this game from 2 years ago when Vanderbilt won. They defeated Alabama and the ranking that they had for the first time in a long time. The goalpost ended up in the river, right? All these different things. Alabama came back last year and won this game in Tuscaloosa. I think that the 2026 version of this game will be nothing like the 2024 version of this game. Um, I think by this point, you know, Vanderbilt, while fighting for bowl eligibility, is not going to be able to get past the Tide. So give me Alabama.
Yeah, I don't see another upset that Vandy pulls with the Diego Magic, and I don't I think that Vandy takes a massive step back. I don't know, man. I kind of feel off like saying that they're probably going to be a 3-win team this year. I do think that there's probably going to be more than that. I think the Kentucky game's a toss up. I think the NC State game they could very much win. I think Auburn's probably a little bit more of a toss up than I'm giving it credit for. Offense being I didn't mute myself, did I? No, I'm good. All right. So
No, I
I
can hear you.
just don't see okay. My headphones clicked for some reason. I don't know why, but I
You're
don't
good.
see Auburn. I don't see Auburn's offense being this. Like I said, I think that they struggle with the evolution of the veer and shoot. I think that Levy and Heupel have both had time in the SEC to kind of figure out how to maneuver through the veer and shoot and make their playbook a little more pro style. Whether it's 12 personnel, whether it's not. I didn't see Heupel run a lot of wide splits last year. He certainly ran them, but he also ran a lot of bunch and he ran a lot of crossing routes and ran a lot more pro style. But I think that was probably because of Joey. But he has
Joey.
evolved his offense.
Yeah.
But he's evolved his offense tremendously because people started bringing more people down into the box and just kind of you know figuring out the offense where and Golish hasn't really had to do that yet. His offense still kicked ass at South Florida. He didn't really have to evolve it much. But I do think that Auburn has a great defense. But I still think that could be a toss up for Vandy. Um, so they could very well win 5 games this year,
Right.
but I just don't see it, and I don't have. If you're asking me right now, like pick a game, I'm just not going to pick them. I just don't have a lot of faith in them, and I certainly don't have a lot of faith in the last 3 games of the season. So give me Alabama. I don't think that there's any magic in this game. I do. I will say for Vanderbilt fans that are watching, if at this point in the season you have started Jared Curtis and you've continued to start him for numerous games, this will be when you kind of really see what he's got, right? He's going to be more comfortable with the offense. He's not going to be a freshman anymore. He's going to be basically a sophomore when you start playing non-SEC games and you're 6 deep in the SEC at that point. You're going to have some experience. You're going to feel more like a sophomore. So you're really going to see what Jared Curtis has. Is he going to make freshman mistakes? Absolutely. Trevor Lawrence made freshman mistakes when he won the national
Sure.
championship. Every freshman quarterback makes freshman mistakes. But are you going to see what he's about and what you have to look forward to if he stays at Vanderbilt? Absolutely. You're absolutely going to see what you have for the future. So, not all bad things. I think they certainly could win 5 games. They could certainly win 3. I'm more on the 3 side, but I think that you'll start to see the glimpses of what Jared Curtis can bring in the future, which I do think is probably pretty bright. But give me Bama to take this one.
Yeah. So we've kind of both, we've showed our hand a little bit, both of us, when it comes to these predictions. The last 2 games are Florida and Tennessee. For Vanderbilt, you have them at 3 wins. I've got them at 5. When we talked about Florida, um, we both picked Florida. I don't think we're changing that. So I mean, give me Florida there. And then when it comes to Tennessee, we both feel like Tennessee is going to get right in this series and continue the dominance. So, I mean, for me, it's 5-7. I didn't think I was going to be higher than them on you, or than them on them than you. Um, but here we are. I kind of didn't think, at the beginning of when I was looking at all these, I didn't really think we were going to be that high. But look, I mean, I can see it. 3 to 5 is the range. And I think we're on to something. It could be 4, right? It could kind of land in the middle, but that's kind of where I'm at with the last 2 games of Vandy.
Yeah, and I just don't see them anyway. Them going down to the swamp and beating a team that's got a Jaden Ball, that's got an Aaron Philo in year 2 or year 3, whatever. I don't know if he's a sophomore or junior. I think he's a sophomore. With Buster Faulkner, I'm really high on Dallas Wilson at Florida. I think they have a tremendous weapons. I think they're always going to have athletes because Florida always has athletes, even when they're terrible. Even the Muschamp teams had guys flying around the ball, first round picks. I mean, and Vanderbilt just doesn't have that, right? Vanderbilt's depending on these transfers, like they're depending on one of their best receivers is coming up from ODU. Can that happen? Absolutely. Look at Indiana. But also Indiana had Derek Owings and they had Sig as their coach. So that there's a difference in that and Clark Leah and whoever the hell their strength staff is at Vanderbilt. So I just I don't really see. Vanderbilt catching fire. Like, it's just a tough place to win. And especially if Clark Leah can get them to 8 wins every 3 years or 10 wins in every 5 years, that's fantastic. That's a fantastic thing for Vanderbilt. And so you should keep that. You should hold on to that. But I just don't see this year. And then you got, if even if Jared Curtis is starting by then and he's showing that he can put up some big numbers for a freshman, he's going to be playing in the swamp, and Florida's probably going to be chasing an 8-win season. So the swamp's going to be rowdy. And that's just a ridiculous place for a freshman to come in and try to win. So I just don't see it happening. And then I think Tennessee by the end of the year is just firing on all cylinders on offense. A lot of people that don't know much about Tennessee, all you have to look at is they've got two 800-yard receivers coming back. They've got 4 offensive linemen returning. And if Sham finds his way into the O-line, then you'll have 5 offensive linemen returning because David Sanders started at the end of the year. Sham started plenty of games at guard. So that would technically be 5 starters from last year. They've got a running back that was over 1,000 yards and a second-team All-SEC member. So Tennessee's got a variety of weapons on offense. Ethan Davis is returning as one of their best pass catching tight ends last year. Deshaun Brain was one of the highest rated tight ends in the nation a couple of years ago. And he's just gotten rave reviews in spring or in fall camp about what he's done, just picking apart defenses, being basically a tight end with receiver movement. And so I just think Tennessee's by the end of the year, if you don't catch Tennessee early, their offense will probably be humming at the end of the year. Jim Knowles is just going to get better and better each week as the guys get used to it. So I don't see them beating Tennessee. Tennessee fans always travel better to Vanderbilt than Vanderbilt fans do. It happens every year. So I think that Tennessee wins that game, and I think Vandy unfortunately wins with 3 or ends the season with 3 wins. And I don't even think that's remotely close to putting Clark Leah on any kind of hot seat because he won 10 games last year. Clark Leah could go 5 seasons of 3-win teams, and you should still keep the guy because he found a way to get Vanderbilt to 10 wins. So, I think that Vanderbilt's just outmatched. I think that they are, every team is spending money. I get it, but nobody is spending less money than Vanderbilt. So, give me Tennessee to win and Vanderbilt to go 3 wins this year.
Yeah, I think 3 to 5 is kind of what we're working with Vanderbilt. Um, that's the previews. Alabama to Vandy. Yeah, all 16 SEC teams have been previewed. We have football coming well now. If you want to scout Furman, you could do so. They were up 10-0. I don't know exactly what the hell is happening right now. You've got that game on somewhere, don't you?
I got it on my
It's
phone
17
playing
to
right now.
3. Yeah, 17 to 3.
Yeah.
As I look at the score right now. Um, there it is right there. He's one of those sickos, folks. That's why he's my co-host. He's right over there. Daddy Donnie is what we call him on Tennessee Twitter and out in Twitterland. Uh, at RO_CO_Vols. I'm Jason at JW Sports 704. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, brother?
Shout out Donnie Tyndall. That's where the name comes from. Donnie Tyndall, one of the greatest basketball coaches in Tennessee history for the 1 year that he was here. Love that guy. But no, that's all for me. I'm excited for football to get started. We got I don't know, we got some games this weekend. I don't know how good they'll be, but we definitely got some games, which is better than what we had last weekend. So 2 days away from the main games, and be some good things to talk about next week as the season starts, and kind of get to figure out what the best games of the weekend will be in the SEC, and go from there. But it'll be exciting, man.
Yeah, best time of year. We've talked about it already. Um, be sure one more time, guys, follow the show on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe at the SEC Front Porch. You'll see that logo on the top left of the screen here. You match it there. You subscribe, turn the notifications on so you know when we're live. Um, and then also, I talked about our handles. Be sure and do that at SEC Front Porch on Twitter. But yeah, we're gonna get out of here. Next time we talk, we'll be talking about meaningful football and not just crazy projections. And it'll be actual games coming up. So for my co-host over there, Seth Meredith, I'm Jason Williams. We'll see you guys next time. Be safe, and everybody have a great week, great weekend. We'll talk to you next time.